On today's episode of the Jazz Takhar podcast, episode 275, I answer your questions on how should you dress when you go do a showing of a property. And if you're a part-time real estate agent that has a full-time job, when do you make the jump? All right, Bobo, let's get started with the first question, man.
Okay, we have a question that says, I have a business that I'm doing part-time because I have a full-time job. When do you suggest that I quit my full-time job so I can go full-time into my business?
Well, I'll tell you what I did, and this worked very well for me, but you gotta know yourself and make the decision based on what feels right to you. Now, don't spend too much time in overthinking, because here's the cool thing when you have to make a decision. Once you make the decision that, look, you're gonna have chocolate ice cream over vanilla, you're not gonna really know how the vanilla ice cream tasted because you made a choice. So what I did was I was in car sales full time while I was getting my license for real estate. When I got my license for real estate, I jumped right in because I knew myself. I knew that, okay, I got the skill set around sales. I've never sold a piece of real estate or any type of home before, but I also knew how I learned. I learned through immersion. I learned through like someone actually teaching me it. So I made the full-time jump into real estate, which was my business. Now, as a business owner right now, here's, after 20 years of doing this, I've kind of evolved in how I would answer this question. Tactically speaking, take your salary in your full-time job. Just let's round up the numbers and let's say it's a $80,000 annual salary that you make full-time. When your business income, whatever you're selling, mugs, real estate, if you're a freelancer in videographing and editing, when you get that to 50% of your annual income, so $40,000 in this example, I would say make the jump. Burn the boat of the full-time salary, and obviously take into consideration, like if you need the $80,000 to pay all the bills, I get that. But what I've come to learn with people who have made this kind of jump at that 50% mark is that it's opened up so much bandwidth mentally, because now they're not thinking about the full-time job. And so if you were able to make half of what you make in your full-time job with doing it, say an extra 5-6 hours a day, because you're working 9 to 5, and then say from 6 to 12, you're doing the part-time gig. Imagine what you're going to be able to do now with 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day going into your business full time. So the tactic again is making sure that you get to 50% of your income, your annual income from the salary with your business, and then you got to make the jump. I know you're going to be scared, but everyone was scared until they did it. Bo, what's next?
The next question is, I've been thinking about starting a podcast to attract local buyers and sellers. Is it worth the effort? And how do I make it stand out?
Well, look, you knew I was cutting you off there already because you got to the place of, is it worth it? 1,000%. For a myriad of reasons. And if you're ever looking for a way to start a podcast and how to cut the content and get more content out of a long form recording, wherever you're watching this right now, simply just put in the word social media content guide. Social media content guide. And for free, I'm not charging for it. I will make sure that you get my process that my boys and girls use when it comes to taking a podcast and cutting it into content, more content, which is one of the sole reasons why I do this podcast, guys. I don't have a lot of time to create new content, meaning like having a shoot day, for example. I also not a huge fan of it after doing that for 4.5, 5 years. The only thing that I have it scheduled in my schedule that every single week, we're gonna shoot this episode of the Jazz Takhar podcast every, Friday at like 10:30 a.m. And the reason is so I can get more content. Now, I've made a probably 7 to 8 changes to the podcast. Right now, I like this Q&A format because it allows for an easy way for my team to take the question that was asked by you in my community. I answer it. If they feel it was valuable enough, based on what you guys are saying on my social media platforms, they're going to cut it into more content. Now, as a real estate agent that is trying to target home buyers and home sellers, the reason I said it's 1,000% worth it is because if you do it properly meaning it's not an infomercial, meaning you're not in every episode, in every minute of the episode talking about use me as your real estate agent. That's an ad, and that's okay. Run that on Facebook, run that on Instagram, do a Google AdWord website landing page on that kind of stuff. But if you do a podcast surrounded around educating the public on how to buy real estate, how to sell real estate, and how to invest into real estate on their own. And here's the ticket, guys, that you have to come from the mindset that you're doing a tell-all. Like you've probably read a book before. Somebody worked for the government or they worked for a business and now they're doing what's called a tell-all. They're telling all the behind the scenes. I want you to do your podcast like that. Meaning, tell people exactly how to buy on their own, how to sell on their own, how to invest on their own. Because here's like where the rubber hits the road. Only 2% right across North America, okay? Round it up to 5%. 5% of the transactions that are done in every single year in real estate are done privately, meaning they didn't use a real estate agent. That means 95% of the transactions that are done through a real estate broker. Could this change? Sure. At the time of this recording, right now, going into 2025, we need real estate agents, and people are using, it's not just me saying that because I'm an agent, but people are using real estate agents. So they're gonna use the one that is becoming the authority, or who is the authority. How do you showcase authority? It's not just saying, I'm the #1 agent, I sell the most homes. That shit doesn't matter to people. They're all thinking about one thing. Same thing that you're thinking right now. If you're driving, if you're taking your dog for a walk, you're watching me on TV, wherever you're consuming this content, what's in it for me? What does all this mean? How can I use it? And so if you are educating the home buyer and home seller and investor on how to do something on their own, even though that they're not going to do it, they're going to look at you as the authority. Now, at the start of you starting a podcast, you're not going to get the views that Joe Rogan's getting. You're not going to get the audio downloads that Lex Friedman is getting. But who cares? Why? Because when you do that recording, here's the cool thing. You send that full recording in an email to everybody in your email list. Simply put, why? Even though they might not be thinking about buying or selling right now, you're getting possible awareness. It also comes into their inbox, as well as them seeing you on social media. It's a very holistic way of getting more awareness for your business. When they meet somebody at a cocktail party, it's like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, I got an agent who sends me a podcast. He talks to, industry leaders, i.e. real estate lawyers, mortgage brokers, real estate broker, like the broker of records. They talk to economists. They talk to home inspectors. Let me share that video because it's a lot easier for someone, including yourself probably, to share a video than it is to say, hey, use my agent. Right? Like, think about it. For you to give an introduction to a car salesman or even a car mechanic, you're really putting yourself out there, because if you send a car mechanic to your friend and the car mechanic maybe rips them off or they didn't go well, you feel like that's all on you. But sharing a video, there's not really much to it. That's why podcasting has shot up. Like, I think it's the numbers right now, and you can fact check me, but I think it's close to about 70% of the population listens to at least one podcast every 2 weeks. Like, that's pretty cool, right? And so again, you're not trying to be a YouTube star or a podcast star. That might happen. You never know what's going to open up in the world for you, which is kind of cool in itself, the opportunity that lies there. But you can actually monetize this for your business. I've had thousands, not hundreds, thousands of clients in the last 5 years that I've been doing my podcast. It's now obviously targeted to real estate professionals because I have a coaching business. And so 100% of my coaching revenue comes from my content, including the podcast. But when it was targeted to home buyers, home sellers, and investors, guys, thousands of deals were done. And it all started with, oh my God, Jazz, like, I can't believe I'm talking to you right now. Like, I'm a D-list celebrity. I mean, my team sometimes makes fun of me and they say, Jazz, take it easy. You're not D, bro. You're a Z. So I get it, and that's okay. But the coolest thing is when I make outbound phone calls or when people come into my office, home buyers, home sellers, investors, and they're like, Jazz, like, oh my God, I was just listening to your podcast on the way in. Oh my God, I was like, it's so kind of cool to finally meet you or see you again. Side note, as a business owner, as a salesperson, do you know how nice it is to speak with people that want to speak to you? 50%, I would say as high as 80% of your job is done. They already know you. They like you. They trust you. You just gotta match the product now. Don't overthink the way that you look and the way that you sound. Nobody's really thinking about you as much as you think that they're thinking about you. Get started yesterday with a podcast / content for social media. Bo.
Next question we got says, what do you mean by generating business?
Look, it's simple. You're when you're in business, unless it's a nonprofit, meaning a nonprofit where you're not, trying to make profit on the business. In any other business, the job is to make more than you spend. And the way that you stay in business, the number one rule in business is that you make more money than you're spending. So your revenues, money coming in, is more than what your expenses are. Salaries, rent, advertising, branding, all that kind of stuff, supplies. And so what I like to, look, the saying is that it's all about the bottom line, right? At the end of the day, how much did I make? How much did I spend? What's left over? Where I like to look at it, my mindset, because I understand the importance of the bottom line. But what I do is I focus more on the top line revenue. Why? Because I can always adjust my expenses. I don't like these mugs right now on my table. I think they're about like $8 or something like that. Okay. It's an expense. It's marketing. I have it on my table here. I give it away. We have staff. I have equipment, computers, all that kind of stuff. I can always adjust those, right? I can, not that I want to, but I can get rid of staff. I can have less equipment. I can stop giving away mugs. The one thing that I can't stop and the habit that can't just be turned on and off like a light switch is bringing in money, revenues. And so what I like to get you guys to is 100% of your efforts and time is spent on new business, bringing in money. But that's not realistic at the start. I get that. Why? Because you also have to worry about the fulfillment of bringing in that business. That's called the servicing of the client or the customer. You also have to worry about your staff and you have to worry about that stuff. But if you're not at least spending 50% of your time worrying about generating business, you're not going to have a business. So what I mean by generating business is do high revenue activities, meaning prospect, cold call, door knock, warm calling, social media, running paid ads, doing educational events, doing open houses, networking. There is a myriad of ways to bring in business. You got to figure out what you like to do, but that doesn't mean that you don't do them because you're tired. Because no matter what, the expenses are going to start to pile up. You can get away for a bit. And the question I have for you is, what is your financial runway? And the way to calculate that is tell me every single month What no matter is a fixed expense. Your rent, your mortgage at home, your salaries, your car payments, your insurance, your grocery bills, those are fixed, right? You know your phone bill, your internet bill, the Netflix, the Hulu. And then tell me, multiply that by 12. So now I need to know what your annual run rate is. What's your expenses? How much do you have in your account? Do you have a full year of it? Do you have 3 months of it? Doesn't really matter. But I have a funny feeling 99% of people have a couple of months. So spending that much time on worrying about how your content looks, worrying about your website, making sure you have the best and sexiest listing presentation, I just don't think that it's as important as meeting new people. You hear me say it all the time, but I'm not gonna stop saying it until either the cows come home or robots start selling to robots. We are in a people business. We have to meet more people. That doesn't mean that you have to do things all the time that you don't like. However, there's times that you're gonna have to do things that you don't like. So I get that you don't like shooting content. I get that you might not like calling your friends and family. I get like you might not want to do open houses. Then what are you doing to bring in business? So when we speak about generating business, it comes to who the hell are your customers? How many of them do you have?
Well, we have a very interesting question. I'm curious about your
I wish guys can actually see you sometimes, Bo, because every time you say this, you have this like mischievous smile every time that you say we have an interesting
I love
question.
these out of the blue questions, man.
We had one about how do I sell more lobster last week or something.
Exactly. All right, this question says, how should I dress when I go to show a home?
How can that is an interesting question. Look, I think personally, if you're starting new as a realtor, especially a younger realtor, and this is not about ageism or anything of that sort, so understand where this is coming from. I do think you at the start need to look the part. Coming in look, I come now to the office and meet clients in a hoodie, a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, and jeans. Mine are branded with kind of the messaging I like, and I have some company REC stuff and Fitigu Academy stuff, and I like to think that they're it's clean and neat and well dressed in terms of the upkeep of the clothing. And I do jeans and sneakers, but that's after 20 years in the business. Now, if I were to show a home today, I would still show up like this, because 90% of the people that I would go show that home to, and this is important, 90% of the people that I would go show home to would have seen me on content. So if I came and dressed up in a suit, it would be like, oh, that's a little weird. Like I wasn't expecting this guy. I'm throwing them off kilter too much. Like it's like, whoa, you're not the same guy that I see on videos. That's a little weird. But when you're starting out in business, especially if you just look young, like if you have a baby, like I have a guy on my team, Luke. He's 25, I think now. Sharp as a thumbtack, very hardworking, lots of charisma. But if he's meeting clients, he knows I like him in a suit. Why? Because he's 25, but I think he looks like he's 12, you know? And so that's just, unfortunately, I mean, we make like first impressions are like, they last, right? And so we got him, and people judge. It is what it is. I wish we lived in a society that people don't. So when they see this 12-year-old coming up to them, if he's wearing a hoodie and wearing his, Canada Goose jacket that's maybe torn a little or something of that sort, ripped jeans, that's just not a positive, lasting impression that I'm comfortable with my team member giving out to the marketplace. So Luke, he dresses up in a suit. 80% of the time it's a tie, it's a fitted suit. People respect him a little bit more because they know that he's respecting his self. Now, if you've been in the business long enough and you have the results, I think you should dress as what makes you comfortable. But as a newer agent, a newer salesperson, I think you need to dress to impress. That doesn't mean your suits need to be Gucci and they need to be like, done from an Italian tailor and they're $5,000 and you're going bankrupt. No, my girls need to wear the Louis Vuittons and I don't even know if I said that right. You guys will kind of know that I don't really know brands that much, but and all the stuff that girls wear and all that kind of stuff. Just make it fitted, like it fits good. It's not too loose, not too tight, not too revealing. You don't want to get people too distracted either. You know what I mean? And make sure you're comfortable. But as a newer agent, you do need to dress to impress because that first impression is very, very important. As my veterans I'm speaking to, my expert guys who've been around for a while, look, you have a little bit of a longer leash, so to speak, with people. They're like, man, this guy, like, your numbers speak for kind of itself, generally speaking, right? Or like I mentioned for the first 10 years, 12 years in the business for me, I was always in first 5-6 years, full suit, tie. My mentor would not even let me, even if I didn't have an appointment and I was just coming to the office, he would send me back. My boss, who in car sales, 3 years that I was in car sales, that family, just to give you like some context, that family's like probably the top car dealership owners in the whole country. They're very successful. I mean, if my fingernails were dirty, I was getting sent home. If I had dirty shoes, go back home, change, Jazz. I don't care. Like, this is my home. You're going to respect it. So I learned really young. Like I had, some more of a hard knocks mentorship, but I understood over time. He was like, Jazz, think about it. We didn't have computers when I was selling cars. Like, we didn't really use computers. We were writing up sales agreements when you were buying a car. He's like, when you're writing up the sales agreement, people are going to see your nails. Look, I don't need them to be manicured, but you need to cut them and they need to be clean. And for my Indians I can say this because I'm Indian. We eat a lot of curry sometimes, right? And so our fingernails get a little yellow. You gotta maintain it. You gotta keep clean. You gotta brush your teeth a couple of days. I'm not just talking about the Indians. I'm talking about everybody, especially in sales. Like, I have a rule with my team. I drink coffee. I eat food. Sometimes it's been a long day. If my breath smells and you tell me, don't think you're gonna get fired or you're hurting my feelings. It's mandatory you tell me. Why? Because if I meet you somewhere and my breath smells, that's the impression you're having. My team could have saved me from that by telling me to pop a couple of gums in my mouth. Like, that's how serious we take this stuff. I know I went a little deeper than just answering the question about how should you dress when you show a home, but appearance matters in person. When we get to a place where it doesn't, that's awesome. Hallelujah. I'm excited for that time. But right now it does matter. And so take yourself seriously. You don't need to have the most expensive car in the world. I see a lot of agents getting into a lot of financial trouble thinking that they need to have the fancy cars. You need to have a clean, I would rather you have the cheapest car in the world, but it's clean inside. Because I've been in some of the more expensive cars of agents, and I have a team of 42 agents. All right, so I got a good sample size. The cars outside are beautiful and they're $100,000. You step inside of it, it's disgusting. Tim Hortons cups everywhere, coffee spilt on them, seats, smells, right? Like, clients are gonna be coming in there. I know sometimes you do showings now with the client just meeting you there, but what if they stepped into your car? Because you had to discuss a little bit more about the property, right? So I'd rather you have a less expensive car and just keep it immaculate. You go to a listing appointment, you don't need to drive up in a $120,000 Mercedes-Benz. You could have your Toyota Camry. It actually shows that you're quite, for lack of a better word, frugal, but you're smart with your money. But run it through the car wash before you go. That's it. Get yourself a 3-month a 3-month card at Petro-Canada for my Canadians. You know, it's like $100, $150. You can wash your car every single day. That stuff does matter. What's next, Bo? That's it. All right, guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in person at some point. And if you are not in the city of Toronto or in Canada, make sure to leave a comment. And if this was valuable, share it with not only a friend that is a realtor, but another business owner. I look forward to seeing you in episode 276.